Hello, hello, hello. How's it going out there? How's everyone doing on this Tuesday? Welcome. Hello, Lion, Redbird, Triforce. Hey, Mads. Pluto, how you doing? Sending out good energy to everyone here in the chat right now as we gear up to make some stuff. It's been an interesting vibe for me recently. I'm kind of spooling up on a big project right now. And because of that, these streams are starting to become like my mid-workday break, or I guess late workday break with my current sleep schedule. But it's really interesting because I hit like this, not necessarily art block, but just the standard roadblock that you get when you're working creatively ever. You know, you're working on a thing, it's going smooth, suddenly you have a change of heart, or you get another idea, things start to get a little jumbled, and you get kind of a Three Stooges through the door effect, where you don't know what to decide or which way to go. And I think the beautiful thing about the streams, hopefully, here's my thought process. It's a chance to, first of all, step away. Always very important if you're ever having like an art struggle. It's important to get your eyes off of it for a bit. But also, to work on some other art to like stimulate that idea to help you decide if it's the right path or not. So, with all that said, I'm going to do a couple of fun studies in my sketchbook, which I haven't busted out the sketchbook in a long time. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm doing some studies with deep colors, strong, warm and cool, and very high contrast. So areas of glowing light. I'm going to be doing this in gouache. Hey, Plush, thank you so much for 6 months. Half a year now. You got the upgraded badge. You got the cool shades. That is a vaunted position to be in. In about a week, just because I like to keep y'all in the loop on this stuff because I think it's fun. In about a week, I'm going to reapply for partner on Twitch. It might go through, it might not, but I do want to let you know that if it does go through, I have been planning several things. I got so excited when we were doing the Golden Bear badge and the Cowboy Bear badge that I went ahead and designed a bunch more badges. And some of them were originally going to be emote designs because they give you like 1 million emote slots when you become partner. So I took a few of those that I really liked and thought would make good permanent additions, and I turned them into badge designs. So there are things cooking that I'm very excited about. So if you have positive energy you want to put toward me getting partner, that would be very fun. All right, so I think we're close enough now to the hour that we can just bust right in. I'm eager to get started on these paintings. So let's flip over to the traditional art cam. You can see I very faintly put down a shape here. I just got a big triangle because I want to work within a really strong like shape dynamic for this. And my first one that I want to do is a mountain. So I'm going to make sure that my brushes are all ready. Just giving them a little dip. Making sure that they're primed and ready to go. Once again, the subscriber goals are active for the month of March. They're going strong. I think we're like, what, a third of the way through the month and almost a third of the way through each of the goals. And if we hit the goals, then there will be, for each, an art giveaway. So somebody will be receiving some art for free. Very excited about that. And resubs and gift subs do count toward that goal. So if you're feeling generous, that is a thing. And without further ado, let's do some painting, huh? Hello, everyone who's joined since we started. Welcome in. Get comfy. We're going to have a nice chill one today. Hey, Rohan, how's it going? Yeah, we got some mountains up first. I'm excited to see how the colors pop in this one. We've got ambitions. Okay, this yellow is nearly done. This acrylic gouache, so it's time to get out my favorite toy, the Crushinator. Make sure it's fully squozen. This acrylic gouache is very old now. I think maybe 2.5 years, maybe 3 at this point. And it's definitely showing its age. It's starting to congeal a little bit. Do you doubt my linguistics? Squozen is definitely a word. It's perfectly cromulent. Okay, I'm going to get some of this deep yellow. Thankfully for my acrylic gouache set, I have duplicates of most. Because I had 2 old sets that kind of coalesced over the years. I'm going to be putting a lot of different tubes through the ringer today. Most of my acrylic gouache set is right at the end of its life cycle. Let me know how the audio is. Am I good against the music? Is the music too quiet? It feels quiet in my headphones, but I can't tell if it's just in my headphones or not. Audio's all good? Perfect. Because there are always moments where I am extra quiet. It's nice to have a bit of music to vibe to. I might click it up a notch. Because it's quiet for me as well, and I would also like to vibe, so I'll just... Okay, I turned it up one notch. And I can also adjust it back down a little tiny bit on OBS. Alright, so I've got, as you can see, a lot of warm colors. And I've got one cool color. Well, opera is kind of a cool warm, if you catch my meaning. I'm going to move the tape back, and I'll just hold the sketchbook and tilt it myself. Now, for most of this, what we're going to be doing is applying the light areas and then cutting around it, doing negative painting with the darker areas. So I'm going to put my pencil aside and start laying in those light areas where the last vestiges of the sunlight are hitting. And before we do this, we are going to wet down the entire surface of the mountains with clean water. Now dabbing off and going back in to even out. Okay. It doesn't matter for this part if we go outside the lines, because we'll be cutting back in around with the dark colors anyway. What matters is that we get a gradient of light into darker areas of the light. So from the yellow down into the orange. And then further down into the pink and red. So now I'm going in and adding a little bit more contrast to some of the spots, kind of marking out where I want the eventual shadows to go. The shadow layer is going to be so much darker, but it's important to mark those kind of things in now so I can make darker areas later without too much confusion as to where I would like to place those dark areas. And even when I go into the cool colors, I'm still mixing in that primary red because I want the mountains to have that glow. Okay, I've got the baseline now established for the mountains. So now I can go in and color some sky around. So I'm just going to clean the palette really quick. We're going to go back to the big brush for this one. And back into that blue. But this time we're not going to use any other warm color offset. Just like maybe a little bit of yellow for a bit of hue. Shift it a bit closer toward green. Now we want the sky to be a nice gradient as well, so I'm going to use a little bit of clean water. Thank you so much. This is the part of the painting where I'm really excited about how deep the value is going to get when I'm painting on those mountains. I'm going to do some real stuff with my calligraphy brush soon. Right now I'm going to go in and mix a dark purple. But keep it mostly on the blue side. Kind of these misty clouds over the mountains here. Now I'm going to bring that down into the mountains themselves. And this is where the cool colors really come out to play. So we're going to do a light dark first, if that makes sense. Just establishing the sort of upper region of where we want to darken, and then we'll go in with our fine detail in true dark color. bunch. Actually, this is somewhat interesting. I recently was talking to somebody, and we looked up... The conversation eventually led to us looking up the anatomy of a paintbrush, and I never realized that... So, you know, the tip of the paintbrush, everybody knows that. Do you know what this part down here of the brush is called? Like the main bit of the hair? It's called the belly. And I didn't know that. So now every time that I spread the bristles out by squeezing that area, I think I'm squeezing the belly. Whenever I make these dramatic strokes, I always think about doing actual calligraphy and how you just have to really commit to it in order to have those confident strokes. It's also, you get kind of those dry brush effects as well. You gotta just whoop, go for it. So now we're going all in on the dark color, mixing primary red with ultramarine. And I'm going to bias it toward ultramarine. We're going to get the absolute darkest parts of the picture. But I don't want it to be black, because I want to keep some of the implied shadow snow that is on the mountain. And I can't do that if I just black out the whole thing. Also, this will dry lighter, so it'll create more of an atmospheric effect than like a very rough black and white image effect. So if I just put in pops of this dark color over here, anything that we're not painting right now, to the eye becomes snow. Because it's perceptually lighter than the dark color. And we have the context visually of it being a mountain, so we understand that anything that is a lighter value is snow. That's very true. I am indeed a southpaw. So right now I'm trying to add in little pops of very dark spots with sharp contrast, like almost no water at all in the paint. And by doing that, it's going to make those areas really stand out against the softer blended areas. And that's what's going to give us some nice visual pizzazz. That's very right, Lyra. Hello there, welcome into the stream. Hey TL, how's it going? So I'm kind of tapping in with the edge of the brush line to make some sort of repeating stamp effects. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. I love, love, love painting mountains. It's not hard to see why Bob Ross did so many. Like, they will never not look amazing. So I'm going to go back in and add some sharper contrast orange spots to the mountain here. Adding some nice warmth to these areas here. This is kind of the last light from the sun hitting the side of the mountain, so I want it to feel really warm. It's one last bit of heat of the day before everything turns to cold night. So I think that'll do it for this first study. And then we can just move right on over to our next page. Now, what's the easiest way to do this? Actually, no, I will have to move it a little bit. I was going to say I could just move my camera over because I have that ability now. But I need to move my palette over just a little. Oop. Thankfully, it's not too hard to move palette paper. Just have a couple pieces of tape holding it down here. Okay, it has been moved. Hey, hi Evie, how's it going? So, second picture, same idea. For this one, I need to draw a circle. So I'm going to use my P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White here as my template to just roughly get a circle in here. Actually, that might be a bit too big. Let's make this a little bit smaller. I want it to have a little bit more like distance impact. So let me see if I can find a smaller circle. Maybe the middle of the Scotch tape. Let's try this. Right about there. No matter what, there is always a circular object somewhere. And, you know, this is a technique study, so we're going to be basically doing the same thing again, but this time with the moon. Just going to hydrate a bit here. Okay, so I'm going to clean my palette off, make sure we're back at square one. So the moon, of course, is going to be the focal point. It's going to be the light focal point as well. I want it to be a very bold, but also kind of subdued color scheme. Another one of those, like, last gasp of light sort of situations. I'm just going to put up a quick tweet. Showing the last little painting that we did. The thing that I love about phones is sometimes they just don't understand how a piece of art is supposed to look. They really have a struggle with it. It's up to me to bring it back to life. All right, this looks better. Hello, folks who have joined since we started. How you doing? How you doing? Okay, that's enough tweeting forever. Let's go. So again, some clean water, and what I want to do is encompass not just the moon, but the area around the moon where I want the glowing to be. We don't have to do the whole page, but I do want to get a pretty wide area. Oh, before I forget, I should clamp down the paper because it's already going to start to curl here with the water I'm putting on. There we go. Just in the nick of time. Okay. Today I'm working in my sketchbook, which I haven't done in a long time. Actually, back here, I wrote a note to myself. Just sort of a little motivational speech. because I hadn't used my sketchbook in so long, and so I was welcoming myself back. Okay, let's get a whole bunch. You'll probably see a lot of the sketchbook over the next month or so, just because I don't have a ton of time to do all my like shipping and stuff, so I'm gonna just do studies for the next little while. So we're gonna start with the middle, which is where we're gonna have the strongest yellow presence, the glow. Boom. And we're off to the races. Next, we're going to hit it off with some orange. We're going to mix our way down just like we did with the mountain. Trying to keep the strokes light. Just barely brushing. I'll dip into that bright opera. Where do I find the motivation for my paintings? That's a good question. A lot of it is just having a real deep and nerdy love for the natural world. Like, when left to my druthers, when I'm not even doing anything art related and I'm just walking around or whatever, I just will stop and stare at trees or clouds. Like, that's just how I've always been. And it's wanting to capture a little piece of that. Somebody had asked me a little while ago what the overall theme of my body of work is. And what I eventually settled on was teleportation. It's ultimately what I want the viewer to feel is what I felt standing there looking at that thing. Like, that is the most important thing to me, is to communicate, you know, I was here and this is how it felt. And that's what motivates me to keep making paintings. Oh yeah, the gang's all here today. Now, I need something a little different. Maybe some sepia. So I want to limb darken the outside of this picture. Okay. Now to continue to push the ideas that I've already set up here, need to clean the palette again and get a fresh bit of paint, specifically the opera. Howdy, I'm doing a couple of quick color and light studies. My first one's a mountain. The second one I'm doing a sort of evening moon. Just trying to very quickly capture some ideas in light. And I'm using gouache paint. Okay, so I've got my pink mixture, and now I'm going to go back up to my yellow and white. Kind of working backwards from what I already had established. Taurus Cookie, thank you so much for subscribing. Well, actually, that's anonymous gifting. I really need to get that fixed so that it tells me who's gifting. Nevertheless, please enjoy your bears. now I'm painting transparently over what I've already painted, trying to establish more of the glow from the moon. I want to really have this blazing fuchsia color going on around where the moon is. I'm trying to even out some of these brush strokes as I go so they don't all show up in the final thing. It's tough when you're working around a small object. And I don't really care if the shapes are 100% accurate or whatever. Mostly I just want to capture that light, that glow. So now down into those colors, I'm going to mix the rest of my ultramarine and my sepia. Okay, now up at the top, can use this wet wash color. I know you can't see it, but just know that off screen I'm mixing together more sepia and the remains of the ultramarine into sort of a watery mixture that I will now use to make some clouds up at the top. Okay. Wow, have we really only been going for an hour? That's wild. These studies are going way faster than I thought they would. I don't have a third one on deck, so while I wait for this to dry, because I need it to dry before I can do the next part of it, I'm just gonna look around my references, I guess. See if I can't find another example of lighting. Also, don't forget to stay hydrated. Thank you, TL. Never worked with gouache, so curious. Is it easy to paint? Is it an easy paint to layer? I'm sorry. Or does it need to dry in between? It is a very easy paint to layer. Basically, the easiest way to think about gouache is it lives in a happy middle ground between watercolor and acrylic. So basically, chemically, what it is it's just watercolors with a couple of extra additives in there. One of them is an opacifier, so it has opacity more similarly to an acrylic. If you lay it on with very little water, you can do sort of the same stuff that you do with acrylic, but it's water-based and thinnable, so you can very easily paint with it just like watercolor if you thin it down. I will say that one of the main differences between it and watercolor is watercolor you can truly layer on a lot, and it retains a lot of its flavor, a lot of its strong colors between layers. Gouache, since it has those opacifying agents and also mattifying, it dries to a matte finish, which is something I like. But because of that, if you lay a bunch of layers of it on, it can tend to dull between layers. So in general, I would recommend not going too layer heavy with it. But because it is so opaque, if you don't use a lot of water, the really nice thing is you can do these broad washes and things like this. But then you can go back in later on and you can add full-on like additional foreground elements or details or whatever with the same medium. So in that way, it works very versatilely like an acrylic. It's just a very good medium. I'm a big fan. As an update to my poster colors, since some of you have seen the progress over on Twitter, I've been restoring and bringing back to life a lot of my poster color paints. And most of them are good now. It takes a while. It's a multi-day process because I have to use the special restoration liquid, and you have to wait like a day between applications, more or less. And there's a lot of stirring involved. Makes the arms very tired. But once they're restored, I would like to do some work in the sketchbook and also on poster paper and show you how those work as well. Because I no longer have an excuse not to use them. Okay, this looks like it's pretty dry, so I'm going to just flatten it out with my fingers and reclamp it. Okay. And now I want a really, really deep finish, so I'm going to go ultramarine and burnt umber. I can find the old burnt umber. I think it's almost donezo. What do we got here? Indigo. Burnt sienna, which I always confuse for burnt umber, but they are not the same. There's burnt umber. Hello. So let's get that on there. I like to use this for my really, really, really dark colors. I might actually even put in a tap of ivory black, just to make sure that it's extra dark. But not too much, just a little tiny bit. It also helps dull the color a little. So you can see the clouds up here, which I applied very wet. Those are still shiny, and you'll notice that they will dry to a smooth matte finish by the time that we're all finished here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the burnt umber, the ultramarine. Not getting a lot of water for this mixture. I'm gonna get the black in there. Try to keep it mostly on the side of blue or ultramarine. And then I'm gonna go straight across the bottom using my pinky finger as a brace. try to maintain even pressure. And we're going to do a few layers here just to make sure that it's well coated. This will be the ocean beneath. Okay. Now I'm going to use some of that dark color, but not quite as dark and without the black. I'm mostly going to dip into the ultramarine for the most part. Make sure my brush is pretty dry. And then grab some of that burnt umber as a dark offset. And I'm going to add some shadows to the clouds up above. And I'm leaving a halo around the shadows because that's how, clouds are, is they have kind of like, depending on how they're lit, if they're lit from the back, like these clouds are, because obviously the moon is below them, but it's all the way out in outer space. And so they're lit from behind in this shot, so they'll have a little halo of light. And I'm going to paint a bit of that in over top once the clouds are dry. It's actually probably dry enough that I can go in and put some highlights on. So I'm going to grab essentially the color that I used for the central glow, which is that yellow and gold combination. And I'll just put it down very lightly on the outside. A little bit more gold than yellow. Full yellow makes it look a little sickly against the purple. And remember, when you put down any gouache color, that it is going to dry. Light colors will dry darker, and darker colors will dry lighter. It's always important to remember. I want this to feel hazy, like this sort of weird, forgotten summer memory. Hey, Abby, how's it going? Hey, hey, hey. How was your stream? I believe it. Are you playing all the way through every Dark Souls? That rocks. Love it, love it. Oh, I need a little bit more orange. And that includes... Does that include Bloodborne and Sekiro? Or are you sticking to the core? Oh, that rules. I'm very excited to see some of those games get played. Because I am scared of them. I know they're actually not that hard once you learn the rhythms. That's something I learned from you, but they're still a little intimidating. But I actually really liked my time with Sekiro. It had very cool movement, that game. Yeah, definitely. Sort of calm in the frustration. All right, I think that's going to do it for the second study. Let's start another one. I thought that this two-study set was going to be enough to fill up the time, but it turns out that we're actually motoring. We are motoring through these. So, I am going to pick something else to do a light study of. So the theme today is we're trying to capture the last vestiges of light, the last little bits of light of the day. And I want to do it without just painting a sunset, because I feel like I've painted a lot of sunsets. And it's more interesting to me to try and get that kind of glow. The medium we're working through is gouache. Oh yeah, Pachi, I've been keeping my eye on it. Seems like a real nightmare. Yeah, I'm going to be taking some steps soon to alleviate that issue, but hachi-machi. Ooh, I found a good one. All right. So since this page is wet because we went so darn fast, Probably going to rub off a little bit, but that's okay. That's what a sketchbook's for, don't you worry. But because of that, we're going to go directly to this page, which is fine because we're already set up for that. So I'm going to get right into sketching, actually. I'm going to use my blue pencil for this one instead of my earth tone. And then the next time I stream with the sketchbook, this page over here will be dry, and I can actually go in. Yeah, I wonder if there'll be a sea change as far as Twitter goes soon. I wouldn't mind. I'm enjoying the quietness over here, to be honest. So I'm going to go really impressionistic with this one. I'm not going to think too hard about... I mean, I'll keep shapes in mind, but there's not going to be a lot of pre-planning for this one. But what I want to get is a really crushed value, but at the same time I want you to feel like there's actual light coming through. So I got some water down on the page. And I'm going to need a lot of blue, but we might... Actually, let's switch up the blue. Because we've gone with ultramarine for the last two. So let me find my primary... Where are you, primary blue? Let's go with that. Put that up here. And then a little bit of yellow. We'll mix that into the white. Okay, this paper is more or less soaked it up. Thanks for stopping by, TL. See you next time. Okay. We're going to go bold. Here we go. So again, with the technique that we're studying today, it's a lot of hit the lights and then put the shadows around it. But this time, there's not going to be a strong contrast between the light and the shadow. At least not as strong. So I'm going in with that gold. I'm going to get a bunch of white. A little bit of that orange. Big, bold, we're going for it. Grab a little bit more of that rosy orange, and then we'll work the darker areas of light. This will be things like where the clouds are around the light, in front of the light, but just barely. So the light is actually shining through the clouds and creating those refractions, but they are transparent enough that the light is still going to shine through. You know, something I would really like to invest in, it's easy to get, is a little tiny spray bottle, like one of those little like tsk, tsk, tsk. Every watercolorist that I know has one, and I always forget until I start painting, and I'm like, boy, that would be handy, so I could just keep the paper hydrated as I go. Because especially in the wintertime when you've got the heater on, the radiators in my house anyway, they just dry out everything. Okay, so I'm just cleaning off the palette really quick, and then I'm going to go into my cool color immediately, which is going to be a lot brighter. So I'm grabbing that primary blue and white. A lot of white. Dulling it out with brown. That is perfect. Okay. So now we're closing in the shadow area, which in this case is the clouds that surround the really bright sky. So this is a time of day when the sun is already set, but there's a break in the clouds really, really, really high up. So now I'm going to go to a smaller brush. I'm going to grab the old calligraphy brush, get that going, just so I can start adding smaller clouds. See you later, Redbird. Alright, so now we gradually begin mixing down into a darker color, which is essentially just doing what we're already doing, but not mixing the white as much into it. And again, we're trying to keep these values close. Thank you, Gold Gregory. I appreciate that. It's good to have you aboard. Here's Lauren. Thank you so much for the Prime sub. We are getting ever closer to hitting our subscriber and follower goals for the month. And a reminder, especially for the new people, that if we do, there will be an art giveaway for each goal that we hit. So someone's going to be walking away with some free art. Now I'm going to take some of this sky color, the cloud color that we've established here, and I'm going to put that down below, and that's going to be down in the water, because this is going to be kind of a seascape. And I want to have those roughly blocked in for when we put detail onto the water surface. So I'm holding the paper up at a slight angle so that I can let the pigment mix on its own. Be putting in final horizon details when the paper's dry, because then I can get the cleanest marks. But before then, I'm just kind of adding in impressionistic strokes that I can then round out later on. So I can get some blue and some white, lighten that color up a bit. Just so we have a bit of variance. It's fun, right, when that happens? When I always call making a painting live the world's slowest magic trick. Because usually, unless you announce it beforehand or you have a very obvious sketch, it's only me that knows what I'm trying to make. So once it actually comes into focus for everyone else, it's like, oh, hey, a thing. So now I'm going to grab my darkest colors for the picture. And then I'm going to mix a light version of the darkest paint. So I'm going to go over here and make a little light version. Mix it with the dark. And then right there we can put in area over here. I'm trying to use as much paint as possible because this is like the last thing. And it's always nice when you get a perfect finish, i.e. using up the paint on the palette. Now down here, I've got this little area, and now I can dip into some, well, what is roughly clean water now. It's actually pretty dirty, but I can just grab some of that and then wet that down and let it kind of splorch down into the water. And what's going to be fun is adding the detail strokes to the water, because I'll be able to get actual proper detail over top of all of these. I'm just holding it up pretty high because the area down here is very wet and there's pigment. Obviously, I put a lot of pigment down for that landmass, so now it's all just snaking its way down happily into the water. Now I'm going to give it a quick once over with the old trusty hairdryer. So I'm going to mute for that. Give it a quick restretch here. And now we are good, flat, even keeled, and ready to roll. I should honestly clamp down this one as well. Thankfully, a man with 2 clamps. This page should be dry by now, but I want to have it clamped down so that it properly stays flat. I'm a double clamper, folks. Okay. So now that we've got a dry surface, we can go in properly. Calligrapho brush going here. Oh, hello, Raiders. How you doing? Hope you're all well. So I'm drawing in a lot of the shadows of the waves, and now I'm basically drawing where the crests break on the waves. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Gold. We'll catch you on the next one, hopefully. Be back on Thursday. Do I ever use references from photos taken during my walks? Absolutely. It's one of my favorites, and it's one of the biggest reasons why I'm so excited that spring is, fingers crossed, knock on composite wood, just around the corner. It's still very cold here, but yeah, one of my favorite things to do around these parts is to take a nice walk in nature, snap a lot of pictures, and then paint from them. Or, especially in the summertime, or when it gets nice out, actually go outside and do some painting on plein air. That's my absolute favorite thing to do. So now as we get down to the end of it, I'm going to go a little bit bolder with these crests. Oh, take care, Lux. I'm going to add in some of the lightest elements here. For the most part, I only sell originals, but I am working on getting prints up sometime this year. Probably in late spring, early summer is what I'm shooting for. I'm going to make some new pieces, and I'm also going to make prints of some of my older classics. So yeah, definitely be on the lookout for that. I'm still deciding also what service I would like to use to sell my prints through, because I've heard conflicting things about a lot of different things. I used to use Society6 and it seemed okay, but I have been surveying some of my peers as to what they prefer. The ones that don't just, have the means to make their own, I mean. I have seen a lot of in-print stuff. I'm curious to find out what works best. I think ultimately I would have to, and probably will, get samples from each and then try to determine what the best fit for my particular colors and values and things like that. All right. So I'm actually going to frame this one. Need to remember which one of these Sharpies. I always think I should throw out my old Sharpie Magnum, but it's good to have around because it's like a texture brush. But honestly, I think this one's dead. Which means this is the good one. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm going to frame this up, which is one of my favorite things to do in the sketchbook, is just block a frame around with the Sharpie. Because especially once you get rid of the white of the paper, it really pulls a focus with the light. So the lighting effects come through much stronger, much more true. Yeah, that feels really strong. John, you're not wrong. The Magnum is an unbelievably overwhelming marker, and it gives me a headache very fast. So as soon as I'm finished using it, I have to immediately put it in the drawer because it absolutely knocks me out. It's not good. But yeah, what the heck? I made 3 paintings today. I might actually frame off all of these. So I'm gonna move my palette aside. I'm gonna frame these up because I think they'll all look really sharp. Yeah, I would love a paint marker that works with as big a chisel tip as this. Because even my chisel, like my large chisel tip white Posca, isn't quite the same. It doesn't give an even application in the same way. Like the Sharpie is just like bam. But thankfully the cap is really well made. Like the second you cap these things, like you can't smell them anymore. Thank goodness. while they are uncapped. Woo-wee. Hey, take it easy, Lion. See you on the next one. Oh, that page fully popped out. I had a fear that that might happen because I left it wet for too long. I didn't dry the paper. And that's what happens with this paper if you leave it wet for too long. Just fully pops right out. It's okay. I guess that means I could put this one up for sale. Because it's a standalone piece. There's nothing on the back of it. And now also I can give it a proper roll. Yeah, I think I'll put this one up in the store at some point. Montana acrylic. I've never heard of those. I'll have to check that out. Well, you know what I can do now is very easily frame all of these to show you what we've done today. So these are all the pieces from today's painting exercises. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really wanted to just get out of my head in regards to the things I've been focusing on, and this has helped tremendously. So I'm excited now and energized, re-energized to get back to it. I'll be back on Thursday for Copic Thursdays, and if you haven't been here for one of those, it is so chaotic. But in the best possible way. There's still very chill vibes, but basically the audience chooses the colors that I use, and then it's sort of a challenge for me to figure out how to work with those colors. So if you're into that idea and want to see some marker work, come on back for that. Please follow if you have not, and subscribe. Everything goes toward my art supplies and my art journey, so I really appreciate all the subs today and every day. And all the follows. And thanks for hanging out with me, first and foremost. That's the best part, is that we can all just hang out, vibe, talk about art together. So as I said, I'm going to be keeping working in this sketchbook, so expect more of this next Tuesday. And I will see you all on Thursday. Farewell, everyone.